We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. By the time you hear this, it will be Monday, and we are recording it Sunday night. And we have the good fortune of having C Temptation with us on the program today. A lot of you may know her from this show. Some of you may know her from my lives. Most of you will probably know her from her own content, her own videos, and her own podcast. So welcome, C Temptation. I'm glad you were able to make some time to come on in.
Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate you for having me again. Thank you. And happy Women's Day month to all the women that's watching this podcast as well.
We should bring it up. You were going to be on earlier, and the last month or so, you've been going through some things. I don't know if you want to let people know what's been going on in your life and why you maybe not be showing up in videos and stuff as much as you once were, but you're back on track now.
Yeah. And first, I want to offer my sincere apologies to all the viewers because the reason why I've been kind of off the scene because my brother had made his transition on January 30th. He had multiple illnesses and unfortunately he succumbed to them. So, I've been dealing with a combination of grief and stress and putting together a memorial celebration for him on March 28th. I'm going to try to see if I could try to hire a videography so I could be able to have it online. So that way, if anybody's interested in watching the memorial online, then I could send you a link. That way you can click on it and you can watch it live, and, just support. Just witness the experience.
Well, it's always tough when you lose somebody close to you. And obviously you were close to your brother. Was he older or younger than you?
No, he was older. He was 69.
Okay. Okay. Well, our condolences, obviously, because
thank you.
When we get to be in this age range, we start losing more of our family and friends, and
that's right.
Makes life a lot tougher, and especially if it's a sibling. I can't imagine. I'm fortunate to have all my siblings still with me, but
right.
Life is tough sometimes. Life sucks sometimes.
It is. Yeah.
But at least, no matter how sucky life is, at least we know our government is suckier. They suck worse.
Don't even make me go there, Mike.
You brought up something before we went on that was kind of getting in your craw a little bit. Another person we lost recently was Reverend Jesse Jackson.
The Reverend Jesse Jackson.
He's a well-known activist. He's from Chicago, your hometown.
Yes.
And he's been in the news. He ran for president.
Yes.
He was at the scene of where Martin Luther King was killed. So
correct.
he was iconic in the civil rights movement. And
correct.
Something that went on after his death kind of bugged you. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah. It's been a lot of this has been going on for the last few days, last week, because I've been paying attention to it on how they was talking about mainly on YouTube how Mike Johnson rejected the fact of having Jesse Jackson's body lie in the state of Washington. And I did ask a couple of people about it in Chicago last week, and they kind of agreed with me. That didn't sit right with me whatsoever because I don't understand why Mike Johnson had to be so racist. This is 2026 because regardless of color, regardless of our background or, whatever the case is, when you look within us, though, we are still the same because we have to get up every morning. We have to eat 3 meals a day. We have to drink the same water, breathe the same air, put on the same clothes, put on the same pants, leg by leg, put on shoes, and live life just like everybody else. So, and this has been going on ever since I can remember, going back to our ancestors. And, it's time for them to see us for who we are. We are the original people. We the ones that discovered this country. We the ones that made this country strong the way it is right now. And then for these clowns to come in and just reject us and just say the hell with black people, that is not right. And then the way they do Jesse Jackson like that was completely wrong because we lost a legend in Chicago. And I'm speaking on behalf of the citizens of Chicago, for our women, and especially for the black community, because we lost a legend and he deserves his flowers. And definitely my prayers go out to the Jackson family and to his wife and his children, because that was wrong. I didn't like that whatsoever. It's time for people to wake up.
Well, the fact of the matter is the Republicans are known to be racist. I'm sorry to
I
say
know.
that sweepingly,
I'm
but
aware.
that's how they behaved. My question is, what did it cost Mike Johnson to have Jesse Jackson lay in state? I get the impression it's just
Zero.
more let's own the libtards, let's own the black community. I'm going to be a dick just because I can be a dick. That's the sense I get out of Mike Johnson.
And that is, and I mean, and after I found out about that story, I was like, he is the most ignorant man, though. I mean, right along with the administration. Only thing from what I see is that he's too busy trying to kiss up to Donald Trump's ass, instead of seeing, the situation for what it is. This is a man that had passed away. We lost a great legend. Give him his flowers, give him his props. I mean, he made mistakes in the past, and everybody makes the mistakes. But at the end of the day, he was still a human being that made a substantial contribution, not just to Chicago, but all across this country.
Absolutely. And I will correct you on one thing. You were saying Mike Johnson is kissing Donald Trump's ass. He's spending his time kissing Donald Trump's ass. That may have been the case for a time. Right now, it seems like he's spending more time covering Donald Trump's ass because of the
That too.
ridiculousness and the
That
mistakes
too.
he's making. Yeah.
Right. And it's just a matter of time far as the Trump and his administration. It is a matter of time, though. Their days are numbered. And and whether they believe it or not, they will be seeking their karma. And I'm not speaking about in terms of punishment. I'm talking about in terms of consequences, because when you're looking at karma, you're talking about actions plus results, and then afterwards is consequences. So anything you put out there is going to come back to you.
Well, when I sat down with anybody on this podcast, I think, what are we going to talk about? And the answer is always, what the fuck aren't we going to talk about? There's so many different things.
Right.
The big news this weekend, of course, was America and Israel attacking Iran. I still
Right.
don't know for what reason. I mean, Donald
I
Trump.
can answer. And I had to research this last night. When I went to bed, the reason why that he did that, because he wanted to switch the narrative and take off the focus of him and these Epstein files. That's why he did that, because Donald Trump, he's the type of person, he loved to lie, he loved to misdirect, and he loved to manipulate people, and that's exactly what he's doing, trying
I
to
think
throw
there's
people off from the Epstein files.
well, I think there's another factor in here too. He was being coerced or at least leveraged by Benjamin Netanyahu, because Benjamin Netanyahu is the one that wants the war with Iran. And the reason he wants a war with Iran is because he needs a war in order to stay in power and stay out of jail. That's why he ramped up this thing against Hamas. Granted, he should have made a response regarding the attack with 3,000 people that were killed or
Mhm.
what have you. I mean, it was a tragic situation.
Excuse me.
And then he had to react, but he reacted to ridiculous levels, to the point they were committing
Sad.
genocide. So now his problem with Gaza and Hamas right now is they've committed so much genocide, they're running out of people to kill, but they still need a war. So they go in and
Wow.
push Donald Trump, either manipulate him or coerce him into bombing Iran, because we had no reason in the world to bomb Iran.
Exactly, because the U.S., our country did not have anything to do with Iran. I had saw a video just a few minutes ago. It was a lady that was in Dubai, and she's originally from the U.S. And she said she can't leave the U.S. because they're doing bombings. And she said she had a friend that was, I think, on the beach or something, and she saw this missile that went across her head. And I'm going, wow.
Well, they were blowing up hotels and resorts in
Yeah.
Dubai and any number
Mhm.
of other places. They're blowing up U.S. military installments in several foreign countries. I mean,
Wow.
that's the thing, is when you're talking about fighting or war in the Middle East, it's a very
Mhm.
volatile area and it's going to spread. And that's exactly what we're seeing now.
Wow.
We bomb Iran, Iran bombs Bahrain, it bombs the UAE, it bombs Israel, and it just spreads. I don't know if you heard Donald Trump say this. There have been 3 U.S. military personnel killed so far,
Oh
and
my
maybe 5 to 7
gosh.
people that are injured. Did you hear what he said about that?
No, I
This
didn't.
is
I didn't. I didn't. I didn't catch that part.
all right. Well, this is what he said. He announced, not live, but in a video that he did. I don't know why he
Mhm.
can't do it live. That's what he should do. He should address the nation. after something like this, but he said, we have reports that 3 Americans have been killed and 5 to 7 of them seriously injured. And he looked at the camera and he says, and I'm sure there's going to be more.
You know what? And then taking it back
but
to October.
hold
Okay.
on. The last line was the important line. He says there's going to be more, but that's the way it is. That's what he says. That's the way it is. Like there's no empathy, no guilt, nothing about this. So he's saying, you got people who died. There's going to be more people that died, but I've got to distract from Jeffrey Epstein's files. That is pitiful. That's pitiful.
Because if you think about what happened back last year on his birthday, where people didn't show up for a so-called, birthday parade, and people was at the No King's Day, protest, and then he made that announcement somehow, oh, I may buy him Iran, and I knew right there, I said, he's doing that to misdirect people, to take people off the narrative in terms of him being involved in that Jeffrey Epstein in those files. And I told you a while back on one of your previous shows, where, Jeff Epstein, that was a secret society and Donald Trump is part of it.
Yeah. And then this is all just a distraction. It's two things.
Exactly.
Donald Trump is doing it for a distraction, and he's flailing, trying to find something that he can do to regain popularity. As much as he won't admit it, he knows he's losing in the polls. He knows he's losing support, even by Republicans and certainly independents. He's kind of grabbing at anything, hoping that will spark the interest in him again. And he's wrong.
Exactly.
He's just going to sink even farther.
And you know what, due to his illnesses, and then I just went through this with my brother, because we know, just to put the truth out there, we know that he has congestive heart failure and dementia. It's just a matter of time for him. I said that, and then you could tell that his health is declining. So I would say probably by the summer, he's probably going to be gone. I wouldn't be surprised. That's just my prediction.
Yeah, that's distinctly possible. The one thing I hope for, maybe he lives a little longer so he can suffer longer. I hope that's the case.
Yeah. I just don't like, because on a normal circumstance, and just from speaking from personal experience, I don't want to see anybody suffer. I want them, they're going to transition, do it in peace. But in Donald Trump's case, maybe just stick around a little longer, do more.
It's interesting. I've been in situations where people have passed, and I've seen two ways people pass. They pass peacefully, and then they just go.
Right.
Then there are other people that in the process of passing are just agitated and upset and flailing around and that kind of stuff. And I met this nurse. I think she might have been from Jamaica or something like that, who deals with people dying. And she says, when you see somebody flailing around, that means they've got some unresolved things or some guilt about things. And they're kind of reliving their lives prior to making the transition.
Right.
I don't know that that's true, but it makes a certain amount of sense. People who have some regrets in life, people who have done some horrible things, maybe it is tougher for them when they make that transition. And if that's the case, Donald Trump's in for a bad fucking week or two prior to dying.
Yeah, I agree. And then if you think about it, it's really, really sad, but all the negative things that he's done towards, the American people and as well as to our country, he deserves his karma, because what you put out there is going to come back to you. And he deserves every bit of it.
He does. Really. And I think he's kind of getting it now, because I think his mind's spinning at this point. Normally the strategies that he would use would work. He'd be able to divert, distract, overtalk things, and none of that is really working now. And I'm sure he's confused, and that's why we're seeing him start to flail. I would say he's going through some things right now. Maybe not
absolutely
physical, but certainly mentally.
Absolutely. I mean, because you could tell. I mean, even when his speeches, he gets confused and he be slurring, because I've noticed that in some of his past speeches and videos. He's just slurring and just, his mind is all over the place.
Well, when he had his State of the Union speech, I heard some Trump-a-fucks crowing by the fact, well, he did the longest speech ever. Yeah, he also did the most incoherent speech ever. I mean, he can talk for a
Okay.
long time, but he didn't say anything. He
He
didn't
don't make
benefit
sense.
himself.
He does
No,
not
I
make
mean,
any sense. Yeah.
we've got an election coming up, and we've got some problems, and he offered nothing of any plan to fix it. He did nobody any good for the midterms in that speech, and he just went off on tangents. He was yelling at Ilhan Omar
Mm.
and some other people. Yeah, it's embarrassing watching him, and what's even more embarrassing is those people around him that are trying to still make him look good because it's not possible.
Mm. Only thing I'm gonna put a message out there to the people that's watching this podcast, ladies and gentlemen, and I said this in my videos. This is the year of the midterms. It is time for every single American person to get up, get to those voting polls and vote and get those Republicans the fuck out of office. It's time for the Democrats to step up and handle business because enough is enough. I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, but I'm sick of it. I'm sick and tired of it. And it's time for change.
Yeah,
It's
you know,
time for change.
a lot of people want change. A lot of people don't like what's going on. A lot of people say, "What should we do?" And what you're saying is exactly right. If you can't do anything else on
Vote.
election day, get off your fucking ass, get off the couch,
That part,
and
that
fucking
part,
vote. Well, I
that
mean,
part.
we know in 20 November of 2024 when Kamala Harris lost, it was
Hmm.
largely due to 8 or 9 million Democrats that didn't get off the couch like they did in 2020. They just stayed home.
That's part of it, but it's a little bit of a deeper story to that, though. And I mean, I got inside information on that. That's partially correct, but it's a little deeper than that.
Okay, go ahead. Let me know.
Well, number one, though, Donald Trump, those elections were stolen. Him and even Elon Musk, though, he even admitted it the day of the inauguration. He admitted it, though, that he had part of it. They stole those elections because technically, Kamala Harris should have been the next president of the United States, but unfortunately, it's not anything we could do about it now.
No, there's nothing we can do about it. And people said, what if they stole the election right after the election?
They
I go,
stole
well,
it.
if no one's willing to do anything about it, it really doesn't matter at this point. And even if they do
Right,
find out he stole it, there is no mechanism for taking him out of office. But in terms of participation and people getting off their asses and voting, had they
right.
got off their asses and voted, it would have been much tougher if there was some kind of funny business going on. It's hard to cheat when you've got an overwhelming amount of people who vote. Like when Joe Biden won, he won by
Hmm.
7 million votes. You
Right.
can cheat, you can hedge things for 10,000 here or 10,000 there, but when you're beat by 7 million votes, it's a little tough to cheat. So
Exactly.
that I mean, you can always count on Donald Trump and the Republicans trying to cheat. The best thing we can do to fight against it is to overwhelm them with Democratic votes. That's the best thing we can do.
Now, I'm not sure my if this is true or not, though. I'm not sure, but I read somewhere that Trump is trying to cancel the midterms, which personally I don't think that's going to happen because now on a federal level that's one thing, but when you're talking about in a case like this and it's handled state by state, there's nothing he could do. Nothing.
No, a lot of people are worried about it, and I've talked to a number of people about it. That's not going to happen. They're not going to
No.
shut down the midterms because
Mm-mm.
elections, even the presidential election, is run by the state, not the federal
Exactly.
government. Now
Exactly.
he can talk about doing an executive order, but again, it's run by the state. Now, if the red states want to not go to the polls because Donald Trump says don't, okay, let's not have any red state vote. Let's just have it all blue states vote and watch you
Exactly.
get your ass kicked. There's the Fuentes kid, um, that weirdo, that little weirdo. He's telling his people don't vote because he's mad at the Republicans regarding the
That's right.
Epstein files and all this stuff. Um, I think I think a lot of people waste a lot of time. I think Kamala wastes a lot of time trying to convince Republicans to vote for Democrats because how bad Donald Trump is. I'm here to say I don't think that's ever going to happen. No matter how bad Donald Trump is, they're never going to get a Republican to vote for a Democrat. However, we may get them to stay home. They won't
Hmm.
vote for a Democrat, but they aren't going to vote for Donald Trump after the trouble he caused. And I'm fine with that if that's the way it goes. If they just decide not to participate, cool. You'll get the same result the Democrats got in the last election.
And it's just at this point right now, I mean, all the chaos that Donald Trump has caused, it's time for the citizens in the United States of America. We need to come together, get out there, and first we got to wake up, then go out there and vote and get these fools out of office. I mean, because after that so-called big, quote unquote, beautiful, ugly bill, that should have woke a lot of people up though, because that's going to affect a lot of a lot of the benefits. People are going to lose Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the SNAP program. It's time for people to wake the fuck up and go out there as citizens, and do what you got to do and vote, get these fools up out of here, clean this bullshit up, period.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes what it takes to get people to wake up, Republicans and Democrats alike. Because going into the 2024 election for the presidency with Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, I thought if nothing else happened,
Mm-hmm.
the overturning of Roe v. Wade would cause the Republicans to lose. I would have thought that would have been enough. The damage they did by taking away a constitutional right and overturning Roe v. Wade, I would have thought that would have pissed off enough women and men to not even come close to voting for the Republicans. Well, apparently I was wrong about that. Apparently, a lot of these people don't give a fuck about Roe
I
v.
know.
Wade.
Mm. Wow. And then what really pissed me off, when Donald Trump first got in office after he got inaugurated, I mean, I damn near got sick though, because when he tried to, try to write an executive order to try to get rid of civil rights of what was that, 1964? When I got one of that though, I mean, I was so sick. I had a migraine headache. I had to lie in bed all day. I was like, I can't. I can't with this fool. I can't. He's doing too damn much. I mean, you got the Constitution of the United States that's been enforced ever since we can remember, and he's just walking in thinking he could just do what the fuck he want to do. That's not how it goes. As long as we got law and order by our side, he's got to abide by those laws, period.
Well, theoretically, that's true. Yeah, I will say most of what Donald Trump has done is not through Congress. Most of what he's done is executive orders. Now, the upside to executive orders is when we get a new president, he can go right or she can go right down the list and cancel all of them like that with a signature. So they don't really mean much in the long run unless you pass them through Congress. If it's an executive order, any president can fucking end them. And if we get a Democratic president, I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. They're going to
Oh
spend the
yeah, that's
first
gonna be
week
that's gonna be out the
canceling.
door.
Yeah, yeah. You know,
But it's just sickening, just all this damage that he's causing, stopping married women from voting. And I'm like, where the fuck is he getting all this bullshit from? Where is he? Why? I mean, why is he hating women so much? I mean, especially married women to vote. They have just as much right as single women going out there to vote. That's exercising our voices. We're allowing our voices to be heard through the American vote.
we have to understand too that these ideas and these strategies that Donald Trump is trying to implement don't come from that dumb motherfucker. That fucker's just worried about what he's having for lunch and whether he's going to go with the big arch burger or a Big Mac.
Pretty
He doesn't
much.
know anything. This is all influence coming from the Project 2025 people and people around him saying, now do this, do this. And he's just like a fucking dancing monkey that does whatever they tell him. They just know how to tell him in such a way where he thinks he's a fucking genius.
And which, theoretically he's not. I mean, he's
No,
he's
he's
an
not.
idiot. He's an idiot.
Yeah.
They wanted to eliminate Department of Education. And I'm like, why? For what?
Yeah.
Do you hate educated people so bad like that? I mean, I'm like, I don't get it.
There's a woman that's been on this show before and she's on TikTok. She goes by Queen of the CGVs, Community
Mhm.
Guidelines Violations. And she's talking a lot about why are we even paying federal taxes? Now, people have said that before. Well, we're not going to pay federal taxes. We're not required to pay federal taxes. And that never works out real well. I've told her that. But she makes a good point in the sense that if you're cutting SNAP, if you're cutting Medicaid, if you're cutting school district stuff, if you're cutting all this stuff, then why am I paying the same amount of taxes? Why am I paying
Exactly.
for taxes not to get services? That's the whole point
Exactly.
of taxes. I pay taxes, we get something in return. If we get nothing in return, why pay them anymore? And
Exactly. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, he's cutting this and cutting this. So, why are we paying taxes if he's
yeah,
continuing to make these cuts? For what? Why?
yeah, our taxes haven't been cut since Doge went through and did what they did. We aren't getting checks from them like he said he would, and our taxes are staying the same. So if we're cutting things but paying the same amount of taxes, it sounds like we must have a surplus. And since our government is supposed to be nonprofit, that surplus should come back to us. But somehow that's not happening.
Did you hear something, Mike? I think it was some controversy was going on last week about these tariffs. I think our governor was talking about, well, what he's doing is illegal with these tariffs, and he needs to pay back the people. And when I heard
Right.
about that, I said, "Oh wow, really?"
Well, that's theoretically the case. I mean, if he imposed tariffs
Mm-hmm.
and they are later to be found to be illegal, which is exactly what happened,
Mm-hmm.
it's natural that he would have to return the money. And I'm guessing the money
Exactly.
doesn't exist anymore. I don't know what he would have done with it by now, but it's certainly not as much as he said it was. He said it was $17 trillion. It's more like $170 billion, which is a lot
Oh
of money in its
wow.
own right. But we've got some governors sending bills to the federal government for the people in their states. Because as we know, tariffs aren't paid by China or any other foreign country. They're ultimately paid for by us. So if you're going to return money,
Exactly.
you need to return it to us, in spite of what the
And
Republicans are always
that's
saying.
what our governor from Illinois is emphasizing. I'm like, hey, what he's doing is illegal. He needs to return that money to the citizens of Illinois. Now, any other governor, I can't speak about it because I don't know.
But here's the problem. Even if they did return the money, here's the problem. The problem is they raise the prices for the tariffs, right? People who
Mhm.
sell products and services,
Exactly.
they raise the price. Um, Say they return the money. Do you think those people are going to drop the prices back to where they were?
I
No, of
doubt it.
course not.
I highly
No,
doubt it. Mm-mm.
why would they? Now they have a
I
chance
doubt
to
it.
make more profits. You're already accustomed to paying these prices, and you might as well ride it out as long as you can until people stop buying it or start bitching or whatever. But they're going to try to milk us for as long as is humanly possible. When we talk about prices. Donald Trump swore he'd bring down prices, and that obviously isn't happening. We've got this whole thing with Iran. One of the big things that Donald Trump said coming into this term, during this term, he said, "Well, the
Mhm.
stock market's breaking records." Well, it broke records during Joe Biden's term, and it's
It
always
is.
breaking records because it's always growing, and it really hadn't grown that much since Donald Trump took over. And he's talking about how cheap gas prices are, which wasn't true. But here's what people have to understand: we are in the weekend with this war, and the stock market isn't open. The gas
Mm.
market isn't open. But when we start things off today, while you're listening to this podcast, you're going to see the beginnings of the stock market starting to tank a little bit and gas
Wow.
prices going up. And the reason why the gas prices are going up is, first of all, we're fucking with Iran and all the other Middle Eastern countries, but Iran is shutting down the Strait of Hormuz. It's a small section where 20% of all oil travels through every day. 20% of the oil goes through that Strait of Hormuz. Now, if you shut that Strait of Hormuz off, which is essentially what Iran is doing, that
Hmm.
means 20% of the oil in this world isn't going to get through. And if we cut short
Wow.
20% of the oil throughout the world, naturally prices are going to go up. We're going to see $4 a gallon gas, maybe $5 a gallon
Mm,
gas.
mm, mm.
And then it's going to be interesting to see what Donald Trump and the Trumplefucks say then. Stock market's tanking, gas
Mm.
prices blowing
Wow.
up. And this Donald Trump doesn't think beyond the end of his nose. So
No.
he's not even thinking about that. When it happens, he'll make up some bullshit and try to gaslight us.
And that's exactly what he's doing. Like I said earlier, he loves to lie, he loves to misdirect, and manipulate people. Because I think I saw like last week on a video, he's talking about how America is becoming greater. It's not becoming greater. It's greater for him and the billionaires and the millionaires. I mean, because they're making profit. We're not getting a damn thing. You know,
No.
he's and like I said, he doesn't. I mean, ever since he, first became president for the second term, contrary to popular opinion, he does not give a damn about any American citizen but himself. Period. Dot. End of story. And
Yeah.
he's going to continue to think like that until he makes his transition.
Well, people are talking about prices, the tariffs. They're talking about the Iran war. And the whole intention of Donald Trump doing some of these things is to take the attention off of the Jeffrey Epstein files. So
Exactly.
that's what we're going to talk about now, the
Right.
Jeffrey Epstein files. It gets worse and worse as we go. The thing that I find strange, and I've mentioned this before, back before Donald Trump was elected, we heard from QAnon. Remember QAnon telling us all these crazy fucking whacked out stories about what was
Wow.
going on, and the Democrats were behind it.
Oh my
Everybody
gosh.
everybody said it was out, talking about cannibalism and torture and trafficking and sexual abuse and all that stuff. And it was just so outrageous, Pizzagate, so outrageous that everybody goes, this isn't real. But now we get the Epstein files,
Mm.
and some of that stuff is real. It's not
It
just the
is.
Democrats, it's Republicans too. I sit and listen to what's going on. I look at what's going on, and it's just absolutely crazy. I almost feel like we're at a point where we just need to burn this country down and fucking start over, because what's going on in those files, if it's true, we're in trouble. Humans should not act
It's
like that.
sad. It's just really sad. And then, Trump, I mean, and what really pisses me off, how that Donald Trump got into office as being president, and he's a 34-time convicted felon and a sex offender. I mean, because we
Yeah.
all know he's all over those files. I mean, that's obvious.
Well, there's at least 50 pages of documents
Hmm.
that specifically implicate Donald Trump
Not
in the
surprised.
rape and the abuse of a 13-year-old girl. Jeffrey Epstein was a co-defendant in it.
Yeah.
Absolutely implicated. This
Sickening.
woman now came out and said, "This is what happened to me. This is who did it," and it was Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein.
Damn.
Now, those pages are gone. They extracted them from the files, but unfortunately for them, the internet is forever. People have grabbed them. The documents are still there. The real question is here: if you've got something that's a legitimate claim,
Mm-hmm.
and the FBI talked to this woman 4 times, filled out a 302.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey Epstein settled with her with some money. This is obviously a legitimate claim. There's never been any investigation. We got all kinds of investigations going on in Europe. We got people going to court, going to trial in Europe, but not one investigation here.
But you know what, Mike, and I'm glad you brought that up. I'd be one to bet you, and I said this a while back, that somebody is going to leak out those real files, because I think
Yeah.
when Donald Trump had said, well, he decided to sign that into law and he decided not to do that, I knew right there. I said, that's bullshit, because if he claimed that he wasn't involved with Jeff Epstein and all these bad things that happened, then why can't he just say, well, here's the files, here you go. I don't have anything to hide. But I knew he was on some crooked shit. But somebody, I don't know who it is though, but somebody is going to leak those real files and the truth is going to come out.
Yeah, people are going to get frustrated by what's going on, and they will leak out. I'm convinced of that too. But this cover up has been going on a long time. I don't know if you've heard
Yeah.
recently that they're looking into a ranch that Jeffrey Epstein had in New Mexico. And some of the claims say that there were some criminal activities, sexual assault activities going on in New Mexico. And the state of New Mexico is in the process of investigating it, which is good because Donald Trump has no control over it. What I
Right.
didn't know till today was that interest in that investigation was started back in Donald Trump's first term. The state of New Mexico was looking into it.
Wow.
The federal government was supposed to look into it, but that investigation was stopped. And you know who stopped it?
Oh,
William Barr, the attorney general in the first term. Now,
wow.
William Barr has a connection to Jeffrey Epstein, too. William Barr's father was the first time to hire Jeffrey Epstein as a teacher, even though he didn't have a teaching certificate. It's a very incestuous amongst these clowns. They're tied together in so many ways, but they wanted to look into the New Mexico situation
I'm not surprised.
8 years ago, 7 years ago, and it was shut down by none other than the Trump administration. And what we're seeing now by saying we're not going to send you any more files or taking out files that exist, this is probably the most massive cover up by our government in the history of this country.
Yeah, yeah. But I still say I still got that strong feeling somebody is going to bring those real files out and Donald Trump will be exposed. Now, in terms of when he's going to be exposed, maybe while he's still alive or maybe when he transitions, I don't know. But he's going to get got though. If they don't get him, then they're going to go after his administration. And let me just add though that there was last week there was a documentary. I think it's still on there on Netflix, explaining about what happened with Jeff Epstein and the victims. And boy, when I saw that last weekend, when I saw that documentary, I damn near got sick to my stomach. I was like, why? And some of the victims was explaining that they went to see him. They were supposed to give him a massage, and they either attacked him or he was self-pleasuring himself without using the word though. But you know what I mean.
I know
Trying to
what you
keep it
mean.
respectful. Keep it respectful.
I
But
think I saw that documentary a couple of years ago or a year ago or something like that. I think it's called Filthy,
mhm,
and it is pretty disturbing to watch that.
very. I mean, because I just said, let me watch this, and then maybe I could do a review on it. When I get on and then when I watched it, it didn't sit right with me because little girls that age, they don't need, that. Why do they have to get violated for what?
Yeah.
Now, what I
Yeah.
heard on the back end, I heard that some of them got groomed now. In terms of whether is true or not, I don't know, but they didn't deserve that. They just did not deserve that. That just wasn't right.
Well, and it's not right. And it's the thing about it is now the Republicans are trying to normalize it. Well, it's not pedophilia because she was 14 and she probably knew what was going on. No, bitch, it's still illegal. It's still pedophilia
Exactly.
in most people's minds. Don't try to normalize this. There is no excuse for it. But
None whatsoever.
I think the reason they're really afraid of revealing this is that there's more to this than old men touching little girls. There was a lot of money involved in this situation, a
Oh yeah,
billion and
most
a half
definitely.
dollars.
Most definitely.
Uh, there were foreign countries involved, foreign leaders
It
involved.
is. Yeah.
Um, and there's some talk that Jeffrey Epstein might have been an Israeli asset or a Russian asset or
Mhm.
everybody's asset. This goes deeper than I think people thought it did. They thought a
It
bunch of
did.
creepy guys get together and abuse children. That's bad enough. But I think this was a very large business. I think Donald Trump was a partner in the business.
Oh,
I think he was,
he was. His children are involved in that too.
well, he had the younger kids working in Mar-a-Lago. They ended up over at Epstein's. I personally
Hmm.
think that there were probably some crimes committed right there at Mar-a-Lago for that matter.
Yo, that goes without saying. I mean, because like I said, that's all part of Epstein's society. They were about money, they were about guns, and they were about what's the word I want to say? Narcotics. I'll put it like that in a nice way. But that was the nature of the society. It was based on those three categories. So it's not surprising.
Well, and I've often said about Donald Trump, we don't need another 3 million files to be released to
No.
implicate Donald Trump. We only need one file, one video, one picture, that specifically shows Donald Trump in a compromising situation, and then
Exactly.
everything explodes. And because Donald Trump is the one that's pretty much has the power to hold this back, Pam Bondi is just doing his bidding. When Donald Trump is out of power or dead, one of the two, I feel
Hmm.
like this shit's going to blow up and everything's going to spill out everywhere.
Oh, you
And we are
know it
going to find
is. You
some
know it
horrific
is.
things. Yeah.
It may not happen today or tomorrow, but yes, the truth will eventually will come out.
And it's going to
And I,
ruin some lives. It already has. I mean, we've got Prince Andrew, we've got an ambassador from
oh yeah.
UK. We got somebody from Denmark who's already committed suicide because of his ties to this. But we've got all these European people that are falling by the wayside because of their connections with Jeffrey Epstein. In
Mhm.
this country, not so much. We've got Howard Lutnick, or as Old Soul calls him, Howard Nutlick. Um, he was in the thick of it. He lied about it, and he's in the thick of
Mhm.
it. He still got his job as Commerce Secretary. This is about a huge cover up, and I tell you, when it's all said and done, regardless of what happened in the Epstein files, that covering up is going to take its toll and put a lot of motherfuckers in jail.
Oh yeah, they're gonna be, it's just a matter of time, whoever was involved in that Epstein society, it's a matter of time before they get exposed.
Right.
Period. They could cover up and cover up and cover up all they want to, but I guarantee you the truth will come out.
It will. And, some people have suggested that if it comes out and everybody who needs to be prosecuted or exposed is prosecuted or exposed, that it
Mhm.
would tear down the entire system. United States system. Some people are fearful that it's going to tear down the government in the UK. And at this stage of the game, that shouldn't be something we're fearful of. If it tears down the system, so be it. At this
Exactly.
point, with this kind of stuff going on, the system needs to be torn down.
Mhm. Excuse me. Because if you look at it, I mean, like you said, they done damage to little girls, and then they've done, illegal things as far as with narcotics, money, weapons. It's going to come to the surface. It's just a matter of time.
Well, to show you that it's more than just the sexual abuse of young girls, Prince Andrew is in trouble for some of the information he was given away in emails to other leaders that were considered maybe top secret or at least inappropriate for somebody in the UK government to give it away. And he had a position in the UK government as well as being the prince. And that's what he may be going to prison for. Now, if he
Yeah.
expands on that, then they look into
Excuse me.
the sexual abuse of it. We don't know if that's going to be part of it or not. Some people have said that he'll sing like a canary. And I don't know if you saw the picture of him when he was coming out of jail.
I
That's
didn't catch
one.
that part. Mhm.
That's one scared white boy.
Not
That's a
surprised.
scared motherfucker. And
I'm not surprised.
when you get somebody who's entitled, who's have everything handed to him all his life, and he gets in trouble and he's facing prison, I don't think it's going to be too hard to get him to talk.
Oh yeah, because like I said, though, what's in the dark eventually is going to come to the light. I mean, that's all it is to it. I mean, and it's not surprising because I've heard people like celebrities that was in Hollywood, musicians, even people that's working like on the so-called the back end. They're all part of that society. I mean, it's a fucked up situation. I mean, it's terrible.
When you hear the stories about the Epstein situation, and then you hear the stories about the Diddy situation,
Oh gosh.
this sounds like epidemic proportions of these kinds of societies. People have talked about secret societies before. And my initial response to that was, oh God, that's just conspiracy theory shit. But in
Mm-mm.
fact, it does seem like a secret society.
It is. I'm telling you. And Diddy, from what I've heard, Diddy is part of that, but I think it's like he's like a small portion of it, but this shit is way bigger. I mean, from what I've gathered, I'm just gonna put it out there. The society has been around for so long Do you remember Charlie Chaplin?
Yeah.
He was part of that, and he was dating young girls.
I think he married a 14-year-old girl.
Sure did. Sure did.
I mean, it was a different time, but still, I mean, it
Still,
was the 30s or whatever,
he
and it
was
was
part
more
of that shit.
common.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the problem when you go back to the 30s and the
Mhm.
40s. It wasn't unusual for an older man to marry a younger girl. And I don't know why that was back then, but I think that's part of the reason why these old people, these old white people, don't think it's a big deal to sexually assault young girls. Two reasons: because they've always done it. And secondly, women aren't real people. They're just second class citizens in their minds.
Bullshit. I mean, women, like I said, we're just as powerful as the men are. We have voices just like the men. As far as voting rights, we're entitled to have those rights just like anybody else. I mean, that's what makes this country so unique. It's based upon the votes of the men and the women.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with Project 2025 and Republicans trying to marginalize women. I mean, they don't like anybody that's not a white male. They don't like brown people.
Exactly.
They don't like immigrants. They want to take away rights from women. They've already taken away rights from women with Roe v. Wade being overturned. Um, it's really kind of a old world attitude, and I'm surprised every day when I hear people who still support Donald Trump that support that kind of thing. Whenever I talk to a Trump fuck and they say this
Mhm.
or the economy that or this, I always ask them. I said, okay, based on you supporting Donald Trump and the Republicans, I have to assume you support and are fully for pedophilia and assaulting young girls. You're for kidnapping young children and putting them in jails. You're for overturning democracy. And they go, well, no, of course not. Well, yeah, you are. If you vote for Donald Trump, if you support Donald Trump, you support somebody who are doing those things. You
Right.
are at least an accessory after the fact.
Exactly. Because like you said, if the people wasn't, then why are they supporting him?
I mean, that's at some point, that's all we can do is try to shame these fuckers because they just don't get it. I mean, I'm on TikTok and Substack and YouTube, and I've
Mhm.
pretty much gotten away from most of the Trump fucks. I'd gotten kicked off Instagram and Facebook, so I thought, well, I'm going to go back
Oh
on
wow.
Instagram and see what happens, see how long I can
Mhm.
last before they kick me off. And I'm still on there, but I'm getting a lot of Trump fucks coming through on Instagram and just saying stupid things. You're an old man. Sit down. You don't know what you're talking about. Trump's the best ever. And I'm thinking to myself, do you not see what's
How?
going on? Yeah. Well, yeah. How? So you support pedophilia.
He
And
don't they Trump don't give a fuck about the Trumpler fucks or anybody else in this country for all we know.
well, you'll find out just how little he cares about anybody as he gets further pushed into the corner. We're seeing it with the war in Iran. He comes out, 3 people have died. There's going to be more. That's the way it is. I mean, that's his attitude. He's more than happy
Yeah,
to
it just in so
sacrifice
many
or
words,
create.
he don't give a fuck. He don't give about fuck about anybody else but himself. That's it. That's all. Just like I told you about last year on the first No King's Day, where he was saying, "Oh, he may buy my rant," and which that fucker did though. It was all strategy to him.
Well, if you don't believe me that Donald Trump doesn't care about collateral damage, let me just put it to you this way. In 2020, when we had COVID, Donald Trump told us that it was no big deal, that it would go away, that it was a hoax, it was a Democratic hoax. And then as president, he did absolutely nothing. He got rid of the committee to deal with that situation. He got rid of the book that told us how to deal with that situation, did absolutely nothing. And a
But
million
his
people
ass was in
died.
the hospital with COVID.
Right. And a million people died. Motherfucker didn't even blink an eye. So don't tell
Mm-mm,
me he gives a shit about those little girls or
he
gives a
don't.
shit about the military, the suckers and losers, as he calls them, dying in Iran for absolutely fucking nothing.
Exactly. He only cares about himself. I mean, because if you think about it, if you go back into it, though, Donald Trump, his mind is thinking, his mind is in the past. He's not thinking about 2026.
No,
His mind is all about war, about kill, kill, kill. Get the fuck out of here.
but yeah, I mean, he's at that point as a narcissist where he's having trouble finding a way out. Like I said, his normal strategies are no longer working. So he's like a rat in a corner and he's flailing and doing anything, attacking
Exactly.
Iran, lying. He tells us that
And
the Epstein
misdirecting
files,
people.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's not working anymore. And that's why he's confused. He's telling us that the Epstein files exonerate him. No, it
Bullshit.
doesn't. It does quite the opposite.
Bullshit.
It exposes him more because there are actual claims and accusations against him. But he chooses to be oblivious to it or lie about it or gaslight us.
Right.
And when it used to work in some things, it's not working now. And I think he's very confused. And I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing him kind of dissolve in front of us, whether it be his mental capacity or his physical capacity. It's taken a toll on him. I mean, being president
It
takes a
is.
toll on you anyway. But with all this pressure and the prospect of getting impeached again, he's worried about that. He keeps bringing it up. Possibility of jail, in spite of whatever they say he has regarding immunity, he's still committed enough crimes that aren't covered in that immunity where he could be in trouble if he survives long enough. This has taken a toll on him. And I think people around him are getting a little nervous about it too.
I don't see what the hell for though, because once everything comes out, he needs more than just being impeached. He needs to be removed from office and he needs to be prosecuted for all the shit that he did.
Yeah. Well, and all the shit that he's done to people. My wife and I were talking, and she
Mm-hmm.
works in an airport, and she has a friend that she works with who met some ICE agents.
Oh
Okay.
wow. Here we
Now
go.
these aren't the current ICE agents. These are people who've worked for the ICE for 7 to 10 years. They've been there for a while. Their careers are there. They count on the money, the pensions, and whatever else they might get. And back in the early days, it started in the early 2000s and
Mm-hmm.
up until recently, the ICE was relatively normal. They had their problems, but relatively normal until they became the Gestapo.
Mm-hmm.
And her friend was telling her that these people are scared and upset because they don't agree with what's going on. He's deploying them all over the country. They haven't seen their families in 6 months. They aren't getting the
Wow.
money they were
I
promised.
believe it. Yeah.
And the morale amongst ICE agents, at least the ones that have been there for a while, is absolutely horrible. And
Mm.
the friend said, "Why don't you just quit?" And he go, "I can't quit. I got to pay my mortgage. I got to feed my kids. It's like anybody else with any other job."
Right.
Um, and I got to think the morale in ICE now is bad. Uh, they suggested that these people were terrified about what they're walking into and the image that they're portraying. They're going to have to
Mm-hmm.
live with this long after Donald Trump is dead, and they're kind of uh, they're kind of freaked out about it.
I wouldn't be surprised personally that if some of those ICE agents gets prosecuted and go to jail, and including the person, I forgot his name though, the person that's over ICE. I wouldn't be surprised though, they do need to be locked up.
Well, I
You know,
think I
just
think
from mm,
well, I think that's distinctly possible. I mean, they're committing crimes against humanity. You've got Christy Nome,
exactly.
you got Tom Homan, you got Bavino, you got some other guy who's supposed to be the leader of ICE. All these people could be implicated in crimes against humanity. And while Pam Bondi won't do anything about it while she's in the DOJ, that's going to change in the not too distant future. Democrats will get control, and these people are going to be in trouble.
Oh
People are
yeah,
going
they're
to
gonna
want
go down.
accountability.
They will go
They're,
down. Hmm.
and I think that's
And
what
I
some
wouldn't
of
be
these ICE
surprised if
agents.
one of them is Pam Bondi. She definitely needs to go down, unless it's the case she snitched on somebody just to cover her own ass.
Well, I don't even know if she can get away with it at this point because as Attorney General, she is in charge and facilitating the largest cover up in the history of this country. Clearly, the Epstein files is a big story.
Right.
There has been no investigations. So there is a cover up going on. And as I
Yeah.
mentioned before, Pam Bondi's connection to this goes further back than the Trump administration.
Mm-hmm.
Because when all this was going on in Florida, Jeffrey Epstein got a sweetheart deal. Pam Bondi was the attorney general in Florida, too.
Mm.
So she knows what the fuck's up.
Oh
She's
yeah.
not in the dark about this at all. She knows what's going on.
Yeah, because I know it was rumors going around saying that Pam Bondi was part of, the Epstein society. I wouldn't be surprised.
No, I wouldn't be surprised either. I mean, when you see the people that show up at these hearings and stuff, the victims, the
Hmm.
survivors,
Hmm.
we're seeing 20, 30 people. But we're also hearing that the amount of women or young girls that were assaulted and trafficked are in the thousands. So where are all
Oh
those poor
damn.
women that struggled with that situation and are now having to lead their lives? And who are they? Could it have been Pam Bondi? Yeah, I suppose it could be. It could have
Hmm.
been anybody for that matter. This seems very widespread. It seems like a huge, huge ring of pedophiles. It really does. And I think it was a very big moneymaker for Donald Trump and for Jeffrey Epstein. They provided a service that nobody else could provide to rich guys who thought they'd never get in trouble, and they made
Hmm.
a lot of money there. They had videos. I mean, that's the other thing. There's supposed to be maybe 10 terabytes of videos. How do you think those videos look? It's going to be
Oh
fucked
my
up.
gosh. Oh gosh. I mean, oh boy, if I elaborate on that, I'll probably get sick to my stomach. But somebody's gonna come out though with those videos and those real files. They're gonna get exposed. It may not
I
be
agree.
today, but somebody gonna snitch. Watch. Mhm.
It always happens, you know.
Right.
And as the Trump administration continues to block this or cover it up, people are getting angrier and frustrated every day. Not just the survivors, but there are people that are the working stiffs in the DOJ and the FBI that are sickened by this. Their leaders are telling them to do things that what they're doing is illegal too. So you got people that could be totally innocent just trying to make their money and get their pension that could be implicated in charges down the line. That's a lot
Mhm.
of pressure to put on people that are just trying to earn enough to feed their family. So it wouldn't be surprising if somebody tries to cut a deal, somebody just leaks something out. And like I said, we only need one. And once it's out, it's out. Trump fucks can try to cover it up, but it'll be too late. Once that dam
Oh hell
breaks,
no.
it's going
Mhm.
to be unbelievable.
And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, like maybe say somebody from overseas or somebody possibly from the intelligence committee, somebody is going to expose Trump. And he needs to be exposed, so the truth needs to come out. So especially the Trumpler thugs, they can actually open their eyes to see what kind of leader, what kind of person he really is. He's just like you said, he's a manipulator, and
Well,
he loves to gaslight people.
I think that's part of what's freaking Donald Trump out because we know England, Poland, some Scandinavian countries, they all have at least some of the files. And
Exactly.
inevitably, there's probably something that implicates Donald Trump. And the one thing we know about Donald Trump in European countries and other countries around the world, he has no more friends. He has no
Oh,
friends. Donald Trump is fucking up their economy, fucking up their security. And I got to think there's somebody in a foreign country about ready to implode that motherfucker and get rid of him because they're putting so much strife on all these countries. They're going to get tired of it and they're going to expose something. I don't know why it's taking so long, but I agree with you.
I
I
don't
think at
know.
some point somebody's going to release something and Donald Trump won't be able to control it. Then it's going to get real messy for a little bit.
Like I said, karma's a bitch. He gonna get somebody gonna stick it to him. Somebody gonna get his ass for real. And I hope it happens real soon because it's time for the truth to come out, and it's time for the MAGA people to really open their eyes to see what type of leader he is. He ain't shit. Even you said in some of your previous videos, you said everything he touched, he fucks up.
Yeah, he does. Well, he's got another issue too. I mean, if you're going to piss off another country, I would think Iran would be the last country you'd want to fuck up because there's a lot of terrorists. One of the leaders in Iran have put out a fatwa against Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu
Hmm.
as committing crimes against God, which means they're putting up $20 million to make sure, and they say this has to happen, that Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu are killed, should be killed because of their crimes against their God.
Oh
Now, I
my
don't know if that's
gosh.
possible or not, but
I
I
don't
got to
know.
tell you, if I knew the entirety of Iran and other Middle Eastern countries wanted me dead, I'd be looking over my shoulder a little bit, even if I had protection.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting death threats now, though. I would not be surprised about that. But like you
Oh,
said, he better watch his ass. That's all I'm gonna say.
yeah, that's
That's
you know he
serious.
well it is, and that tells you how desperate he is. He knows he's putting
Okay.
himself in a situation where he's in danger, whether it be legally, whether it be credibility, or whether it be morally.
Hmm.
Everywhere he turns, somebody's against him. People in his own party are against him at this point.
Yeah, because they know
Erica,
they know what type of man he is, though. He loves to gaslight and manipulate and lie so much. It's gonna catch up with him.
it is going to catch up with him, and in November of 2026, when we have the midterms, and presuming everything goes as we expected, in that the Republicans will be wiped out. If it takes this
Exactly.
long, the Republicans will have had enough of him at that point. He'll be a president that has no power because he doesn't have Congress working for him. He'll be a liability as opposed to uh, a valued commodity in the Republican Party, and they will kick him to the curb. I would hope they do it before the midterms, but I know at least in the midterms, if they turn out the way we think, Donald Trump is done.
I pray, and you know what? Me personally, just speaking for myself, I pray that it does happen this year because, again, it is time for a change. Trump needs to go, not impeached. He needs to be removed from office. He needs to be prosecuted. He needs to be in jail, or even if he transitions this year, just hypothetically speaking, go after his administration. And because somebody needs to be held accountable.
All over TikTok, there's a couple of people, one woman specifically, and she's doing TikToks and say, I voted for Donald Trump, but now I get it, and I'm so sad, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
And
right. Yeah, right.
she's just getting ravaged by people, and now she's upset. You're so mean. I thought it was a tolerant left. Fuck you. She,
Bullshit.
she voted for him 3 times. She knew exactly what we knew. She knew exactly the things we were
She
talking
knew
about.
what type of motherfucker he was, though. Ain't nobody trying to hear that. She knew exactly what she was doing. She knew what type of personality that he has, what type of mentality he has. I mean, come on now.
These people were all about voting for him. They didn't mind whether or not he was hurting people up until the time they started hurting them. And then all of a sudden, it was time to cry
Then
and
they want to
whine.
wake up. Then they want to
Yeah,
wake up and like, damn, I messed up.
I'd love to say that I could be the have the Christian attitude and be the bigger person and forgive them and take them in, but I can't do that because the level of damage they've done to this country and the danger they put so many people in, and I can't trust them. Some other clown comes by on a fucking bandwagon that they happen to like, and they'll jump on that thing again. I think what we need to do with these people is send them back under the rocks from whence they came. They need to go back there. They'll never go away. The racism will always be there. The sexism will always be there. It's just that Donald Trump made it popular to come out and be racist and sexist and anti Semitic. So they felt comfortable in doing that, and they were comfortable. We've got to make it uncomfortable for them again. And when they get exposed after Donald Trump is exposed,
Mm-hmm.
then that may be when they head back under the rocks.
and which is time to, and I mean, and race, and speaking about racism, this has been happening, way before Donald Trump, but even now that he's president and now in office, yeah, it's time for that clown to get exposed. But and I need to emphasize this, even though that if something were to happen to Donald Trump, we're not going to be just open and free. We got to deal with that damn JD Vance because he's a snake.
Yeah, he's a snake, and I know we have to deal with him. I'm a big believer in let's deal with the big problem, get that fixed, and then we'll worry about the next problem.
Mhm.
Otherwise, if we try to take on everything at once, we'll never be successful. JD Vance is also very weak.
Very.
Republicans don't like him. MAGA doesn't like him. And if he doesn't have the Congress working with him, he's going to be pretty much impotent. If we've got the House and the Senate and he's now the president, it's going to be a wasted 2 years for him. He's not going to be able to accomplish anything.
Because see, the thing about it is, though, his advisors had told him and say, "Don't say anything, just sit back, chill, don't say anything," because he's not as vocal as Donald Trump. That's part of the reason why MAGA doesn't like him. Because he's a real you could tell he's a snake ass bastard.
Yeah, he really is. And he doesn't have the charisma or the
No,
power or the credibility amongst the MAGA people to continue where Donald Trump left off. I mean, that's the biggest problem for the Republicans. They don't have anybody that can do that other than Donald Trump. And when Donald Trump finds his demise choking on a Big Mac or whatever the fuck he's doing, they aren't going to have anybody else to replace him. And so it's going to be a problem for MAGA to stay together after something like that.
exactly. Because because if something happens to him and then JD Vance steps up as president, they're gonna look at him like, please.
Yeah, yeah,
So that would
it's
be
going to
pretty
be
much be the end of MAGA after that point.
yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the things that amazed me was that it's taken this long for Republicans or independents to start seeing the light. That this is not the way to go. I heard recently that Donald Trump's approval rating in independents is 19%. Now that's horrible.
Wow.
If you're going to win a presidential election, you need the independents to go your way. And clearly they did in November of 2024. But in just over a year, he's lost almost all the independents, which would make it impossible if he were to run again. And he's not. But if he were, there's no way he could win at this point.
Oh no, hell no. Because I don't know if you saw that speech that time when he was talking about he wanted to run for a third term. I was like, get the hell out of here. Because according to the Constitution, you could only serve 2 terms. And then
Yeah.
plus the man is going to be 80 years of age in June. It's time for him to step down. He need to go somewhere and sit down. The man is old.
Yeah, I don't think he'll survive till 2028, to be perfectly
I
honest
don't
with you. The
see
way
it.
he's going now,
Mm-mm.
he's degrading so quickly.
I don't see
And
it. I really don't
and
see it. Mm-mm.
I think Republicans will be surprised how joyous this country and this world is when he finally dies. They're going to be appalled. They think we weren't sad enough about Charlie Kirk. Wait till
Oh,
Donald Trump
please.
dies.
And then I just thought about something going back real briefly about Jesse Jackson. My theory about that is if they had people like Rosa Parks that lied, if her body lied and stayed in Washington,
Right.
and she wasn't a president, if they allow her body to lie and stay, why can't they let Jesse Jackson body to lie and stay? Make that make sense.
Well, we know why with this particular administration. It's because he's black and he's liberal, and they aren't going to do anything to pay tribute to anybody that's not them. That's why it was so egregious to not do that. I mean, they didn't lose anything by doing it. They might gain some voters had they done it, but they're so um,
They just a bunch of assholes, just racist, that old thinking, just bunch of assholes, don't want to see us as equals, besides the skin color. I mean, we still have a soul, we still have a spirit, we have to function just like anybody else in this country.
let me ask you something. See, I have this theory. and I'm just an old guy with the theory, so I don't know shit about shit.
Oh hell, you all right?
when when Jesse Jackson was fighting for civil rights,
Mhm.
those were tough times. I tell people if you grew up in the 60s and the 70s, you have to understand, as egregious as this sounds, racism was just accepted. It was accepted until this. What I'm saying is people were racist in the 60s and nobody got any shame over it. Um, I'll be honest with you. It was so bad in the 60s. And when I was a little kid,
Mhm.
I remember standing in line um, because you'd go out and drink water in your breaks in class. And I'm standing in line, and in front of me is a cute little girl named Shirley Hill, who was a
Mhm.
black girl. She takes a drink of water. I step up and I think to myself, am I supposed to take a drink of water or am I not supposed to take a drink of water? That was going through the head of a 7-year-old kid because I didn't fucking know. So what I'm
Wow.
saying is in the 60s, racism was more accepted and it was just ridiculous. And then as we got later in the 90s and the 2000s, if you were to talk to a white person, they'd say, I think racism has really gotten better. Things are better. We're not so racist anymore. And my contention is racism has never gotten better.
Oh
It's always
hell
been
to the
bad.
no. Mm-mm.
The only difference is that those racists were more quiet. They hid under their rocks because it
Yeah.
wasn't appropriate for them to step out. So they were always there. And when they got the freedom to come out from under the rocks, that's when it flared up again. I mean, as somebody who's a person of color, you would know more about whether racism got better in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s
Mm-mm.
from your
Mm-mm.
perspective.
I don't think so. Me personally, that's just my personal opinion. I don't think so, because it's like they always judging us far as like with me, for instance, the strikes against me, they're looking at me because I'm black, I'm a woman, and it's like, and I tell people, look within me. It's not about my color, it's not my skin color, it's not my being a woman, look beyond that. I mean, I have a soul, I have a spirit, I'm connected with the universe, you know and I feel like that I'm just as important, just like any other person of color ever.
I will say this, you and I have one similar drawback when it comes to getting jobs or doing things in life.
Mhm.
We are similar in this sense. We both have mouths and we like to fucking run it.
Okay. I mean, hey, this is who we are.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why some people come and watch what we're doing here because we are saying things that they'd like to say, but they don't feel comfortable or aren't
Mhm.
in a position to say it. So it's kind of our responsibility, people like you, people like me, to say, fuck you. We're tired of this shit because they're all fucking tired of this shit too.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, Mike, because it made me thought about when my brother was in the hospital. Because I told him about that. I started a channel on YouTube, and he was saying how proud he was, and he looked at me as being the modern version of Angela Davis, and I'm like, I'm not Angela Davis. I'm just me. I just speak my mind and just stand on the truth. That's it. I mean, I don't compare myself with somebody else. Now, not trying to disrespect her legacy because she was a strong, powerful woman, but I'm just trying to be, stand up on what's going on right now. I mean, because, and plus set a foundation for the next generation as well. I'm just being me.
Well, it does take certain people to be activists and, Old Soul who comes on. It's been a while since she's been on the show. I talk
Mhm.
to her brother now and again. I'm not even sure where she is. Uh,
What?
she was, well, I mean, she, somebody knows where she is. I don't.
Okay.
But she's going into, she was in Minnesota where I live. I said to her,
Really?
have her call me. Let's go out to dinner or something. And she goes, well, she's in the process of getting kids out of town and getting them to safety. And she adopted a kid. And, I, I, I
I
said, I
hope
don't
she's
mean to be,
okay.
she did have some problems with an illness, her brother said, but I believe she's doing better now. She kind of downplayed it some, but
Oh,
she's
wow.
got to take care of herself. But when I look at the level of activism she's doing, I kind of half jokingly and half seriously, she's going into Los Angeles, she's going into Minnesota, she's helping kids get away from ICE and do all this stuff and put them in safe houses and do all this stuff. You talk about being a modern day Angela Davis. She's almost a modern day Harriet Tubman, for fuck's sake.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I don't,
Trying
I,
to
and I
deliver
don't,
souls to the promised land.
well, and I don't say that to be flip, but
Mm,
she has taken activism to such a high level. She's
mm,
going in on the ground, putting herself in danger to help these people. And it's so
right.
admirable. It's so admirable. I mean, there aren't many people in this world that would put themselves on the line that much. And that says a lot
Right.
about
I
old
get it.
women.
And I got mad respect for her because she, that's the level of respect that she has for humanity.
Right. And then we have Howard. I don't know if you know who Howard is. He's an old white guy, lives in Minnesota. You know, he
Okay.
owned he owned his own business and stuff, and he's got a black wife. He's got brown grandchildren, and he got upset about this stuff. And this guy's a little younger than me. He's in his 60s, but we're old. He's out there pounding the streets during the protests. He's out there with hats and fucking signs. And I give people a lot of credit for being activated like that. That's what it takes in a country like this. This is what we had in the 60s. And apparently in the 2020s, we need it too. And I'm so appreciative of those people that put themselves on the line like that.
Yeah. I mean, because what they're doing, they're building a legacy. And I
Yeah.
and I got nothing but respect for them.
And, the entirety of this country has been more activated than we've ever been before. Most people would sit on the sidelines and do nothing. But here in Minnesota, ICE comes in and we got 70,000 people in a city of 300,000 people coming out to push back against ICE. We've got people in Chicago, we got people in Pennsylvania, in Los Angeles, and all over the country. They've
Mm-hmm.
had enough. They're stepping up and they're pushing back. And regardless of how tough Donald Trump thinks he is, you can't stop the people if they're ready to fucking fight.
Oh yeah, because when he was talking all that smack about ICE and deportations, people took it out to the streets. They was like, "Fuck this."
Yeah. So we're getting toward the end here, but what do you think? What do you think is going to happen going forward? We got a war in Iran. We got the Epstein
Wow.
files just bubbling under. We've got tariffs still in
Oh
effect,
my
even though
God.
the Supreme Court told him he can't. Uh, didn't you just love that when they said you can't do tariffs? So then he said, okay, well, then I'll do higher tariffs and I'll take another angle. This motherfucker does not learn a lesson.
He need to sit his ass down somewhere. But in response to that, because I don't know if you know, I told you this on any of the previous shows, but in case if I didn't, I'm a Nichiren Buddhist. And what we studied in Buddhism, we talk about is in Japanese called Kosen Rufu, and that stands for world peace. So only thing we could pray for now at this point is peace, because Donald Trump don't went too far, and it needs to stop.
I forgot that you said you were a Buddhist, and I
I
brought
am.
this up on the podcast before, and I
Hmm.
had a very profound experience. My wife and I were down at our place in Georgia in Savannah,
Hmm.
and the Buddhist monks that were walking from Texas to Washington D.C.
Hmm.
Right when we were down in Georgia, they were going through an area in South Carolina, which was a few hours away from where we were. My wife
Hmm.
said, I want to drive and see those Buddhist monks as they're doing what they're doing. And I didn't really want to. I don't want to drive 3 hours there and 3 hours back just to see these
Hmm.
guys walk by. But when I got there, they were stopped and they were having lunch or whatever. And I got a chance to meet a couple of them. There was definitely a different vibe to the whole situation. Everything
Hmm.
around them, how they were, and you watch what they were putting in. They're walking 25 to 35 miles a day, every day, at a pace I could not keep up with. Some of
Wow.
them were walking barefoot, but I was really impressed by these Buddhist monks. They weren't yelling, they weren't screaming. This was just a protest about what's going on in this country, and they were making a statement by taking their walk. And I was truly impressed by them.
Let me just kind of correct that. I'm not like a quote unquote Buddhist monk. I'm more, the actual title is Nichiren Buddhism, and we believe in the power of what is called Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which is we give devotion to the mystic law of cause and effect. As a matter of fact, and for those that's interested, look up the story about Tina Turner, because she was a Nichiren Buddhist from the 70s up until the time she made her transition. So it's all about reset of the mind. It's all about a level of calmness, and it's all about, we're about peace. So that's why I was saying it's really important that we have to pray for peace at this point, because things
Right.
has gotten out of hand.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Well, see, tell people where they can find you, because you're doing TikToks, you have a podcast, and we want
Yeah.
people to reach out and find you too. So please let
Yeah,
us know where they can do that.
sure. Yeah, I'm definitely on TikTok. I'm definitely on Instagram. I'm definitely on YouTube, the political discussion. And please subscribe. I'm working on trying to get my storage cleared up, because I got to delete some of my old videos so I can start, preparing and making new videos though. But I will be back shortly once I get this issue straightened out. So you can find
Yeah.
me on IG, TikTok, and YouTube, and subscribe to YouTube.
And the handles that you use on those platforms, how do they find you? Do they find you a See Temptation, a political discussion?
No, it's under the political discussion, but my name, I go by See Temptation, but yeah, the actual channel is the political discussion.
Okay, so by all means, check out See on the political discussion. She has an important point of view, and I'm sure she'd love to have you in the audience if you're not already there. If
Yeah.
you're not, I'm surprised, because she's been here before and we told you once before. And how many fucking times do I have to tell you, for fuck's sake?
Wow. But like I said, I've been off the scene. Like I said, I'm still working on, far as, coordinating my brother's celebration of life ceremony. So once in this month is going to be really busy. So hopefully after this month, I'll be back on it, going strong and using my voice. But right now I'm still, that's still kind of stressful, and I got to work on that.
We get it. Well, thank you, C, for joining us on the program.
Thank
Um,
you.
for those of you listening, I appreciate you taking the time to do that. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.